Welcome to the most exciting, entertaining amateur podcast about running that you're currently listening to. We're Dan, Brett, and Joe. This podcast is where three friends take a break from huffing and puffing on the trail to chat about our mishaps, achievements, and share some of the things we've learned along the way. If you're a seasoned pro looking for expert advice, please keep looking. But if you're a novice runner, a newbie jogger, or someone who confuses running with torture, go ahead and keep listening. We'll share some of our running stories, from encounters with squirrels, snakes, and coyotes, to taking on our first 8-mile run across a bay, all on our family vacation, only to successfully destroy the day at the beach afterward with our soreness and fussiness. Not to mention, we'll be talking about gear, gadgets, and resources that promise to assist you on your journey, only to leave you feeling a little bit more like the batteries must have been in backwards or something. Grab your running shoes and join us for the laughter, agony, and endless quest for the subpar PR. Don't worry, we might be slow, but our wit is quick, and you're in for a great time. And hey, if all else fails, there's always the post-run cooldown and ice cream. Lace up those sneakers and let's get this podcast running. We are 0 to 0.
Dan, you look bewildered.
Oh, it gave me a little notification.
Beautiful, but bewildered.
Shut up.
You're going to have to be on the forefront of the podcast. Like, you're going to have to be the picture.
No.
100%.
All right, so let's talk about real quick why we're doing a podcast. This is purely an excuse for us to get together and talk about running in a format and setting where our wives don't have to deal with it. Because we talk about running way more than people of our skill level should talk about running. But it's a lot of fun. And if anybody ever finds this one day, maybe they will also have a little bit of fun, perhaps at our expense with us. So why don't we start with some introductions? We'll go around the table, so to speak, and just talk about who we are, our background professionally, and our minuscule background with running. And then we'll get into some of the other stuff. So I'll go first. I'm Joe. I'm a Christian, father of 3, husband to a beautiful wife. I'm an educator by trade. I teach earth sciences. In the past, I have coached football, and I've been a head high school track coach for a while for boys. My running history would have to go back to 2014-ish. I did run a little track in high school, mostly as a sprinter. 2014, I ran here and there a couple of miles over the course of a summer, nothing longer than a mile and a half, 2 miles. The total year was maybe 30 or 40 miles, hit and miss for the next few years. And then this past January of 2023, and then on into February, March, got into running with you guys, and then worked up through just finishing my very first half marathon with you boys. So that's me. Brett, do you want to go next, buddy?
Sure. So I'm Brett, soon to be a father of 2. Wife's pregnant at this point. Gonna have a baby girl to add to our son. Professionally, I work in the finance industry, get a nice job, work from home, so it frees up more time for running. Running in like kind of athletic history, I played sports all growing up, played basketball, football. I actually was on the track team in high school, but never competed in anything until my senior year because I just did it for football conditioning. Then I threw discus just because I threw footballs, so might as well throw something else. So that's kind of when I started running. I kept it up just with football conditioning, and then whenever I retired from football, or football retired me, however you want to look at it from that perspective, I kept running, and then I would run kind of anywhere between 1 mile and 5 miles a day for couple years while I was in college. I ran in 2 5Ks while I was in college, but nothing super impressive. And that was about 2015, 2016. Didn't run for several years. And then this past February picked up running again, where we ran our 5K, 10K, and then just completed our half marathon.
All right, Dan, tag. You're it, buddy.
Tag, I'm it. All right, I'm Dan, same Christian. I'm a father of 3, a beautiful wife who we're all 3 grateful that they put up with our running and talking about running nonstop. Professionally, I'm a CNC machinist. I used to be a truck driver. as far as running, growing up, I ran playing sports, but like soccer and baseball, football in the streets, but never played competitively football. But I never really ran just to run. It was always with sports, and I always thought people that ran were crazy to run those long distances. But got out of it, and before I became a machinist, I was a truck driver for a while, and the sedentary lifestyle and the long hours kind of got me out of working out. I did run a little bit. I was more into lifting, but I ran, maybe before a workout or after a workout. Nothing too crazy. It was more of a warm up or a cool down from a hard workout. And I started running in December of 2022. I decided to get into running just to kind of get back into exercise. And then we started the plan with the 5K plan, the 10K plan, and then just ran our first half marathon.
All right, beautiful. Let's talk a little bit more about the getting into running part. So, Dan, you started first out of the three of us, right? You just said in December. I kind of started in January.
Yeah, it was late December. I looked back at my run before we started this. The first run I did was December 26th. I think it was the day after Christmas. When people come up, when New Year's rolls around, everybody comes up with these New Year's resolutions. That's when most of the gyms and get the busiest for the first month of the year. People making these New Year's resolutions, but it wasn't necessarily a New Year's resolution I was making. It was more of a, hey, let's just do it now, right, type of thing. And so when I look back at it, my first run was on December 26th. I started it with the crazy idea of maybe, never set into it, but maybe one day I could work up to a marathon just to say I did. Never thought I'd be as far as I am, but it was more just to get started, kind of.
Yeah, I kind of started. I was one of those guys that started after the new year, but didn't start until I think my first one was January 30th, maybe the 31st, somewhere in there. But just wanted to be just a small amount healthier. I also didn't have enough to whine about. And I think that picking up running gave me an excuse to be perpetually unhappy. At least that's kind of what I thought. So I was really looking forward to that. And then you talked me into doing that 5K plan. I remember we were sitting there in the church building one day, and I don't remember who brought it up, but I was talking about how much I hate myself for running. And then we said, hey, let's start over with this 5K thing. Brett, what about you? What was it that got you going this most recent time?
So I know we'd been talking about it and or after church or after Bible class or after worship conversations. And I was like, one day I was like, I'll go ahead and download the app. And it was a Wednesday, I believe. I was like, I'm going to go for my first run today. And whenever that happened, I got sick that night and couldn't go to Bible class and ended up by the toilet for most of the night. And I was like, well, maybe running isn't the thing for me. But kind of, I think a week or two after that is when I actually started actually running. But it was really just because I'd put on some weight and was really looking to get in better shape and for myself, but also for kind of the people around me, because I want to be around longer, and kind of carrying extra weight around makes those chances a lot less. So I decided this was something where it was affordable to do. Didn't take a lot. You didn't have to get a gym membership. You could just do it anywhere. So it was a good thing to start, and I'd done it before. So that's kind of what got me into it back in February.
So there was a big transition for me. Let's go straight into the next thing. Let's talk about what kept us going. For me, that first part, and I look back on it now, gaining some knowledge, and I can see why it was so miserable. But that whole first 5K plan, the only thing that kept me going was hanging out with you guys, like doing it together and being accountable to other people, giving us something to talk about, looking forward to, opportunities to get together and stuff like that. Like that first 4 mile run, I still remember how legitimately scared I was of it. Like
Terrified.
I remember being very uncomfortable at the thought of that because I had run 4 miles one other time in my life. But the thing that kept me returning to it was just the camaraderie, just us hanging out, because
Mm,
none of us were moving very fast that first time through. But there was a big transition that happened for me after that when we started doing the 10K plan. It was just kind of the next logical step to do. And so just hopping over in the Nike app to the 10K instead of the 5K, that's when I started enjoying it, when we started putting a concentrated effort on heart rate. So every run wasn't a punishment anymore, or it didn't feel that way. It was more of an opportunity to exercise and clear the mind and those things. What about you guys? What was it that kept you going?
So for me, kind of what kept it going was definitely you guys and the doing it together. And I mean, I'm pretty competitive, so seeing oh, Dan got his run in and he ran this many miles, and it's like I'm going to try to get that, or seeing what you did and trying to at least match that. And because there's definitely days you wake up and it's like I don't want to run today. Like I'd rather lay in bed. I'd rather take a nap after work. Just kind of do anything, watch TV, something, be lazy, kind of like what I was doing before. But it's like knowing it's like, well, if I say no once, I can say no the rest of the time too. So it's easier just to say yes that day, and it makes it easier to say yes the next day and the following days. But it was definitely the change up and having all the different guided runs really does help too. So it keeps it fresh.
yeah, I agree. Same thing, camaraderie, the competition, the seeing you guys getting your runs in. I mean, even this week I planned on taking time off, and last week, but seeing Brett getting these long runs in, I'm like, man, I gotta run. It's late. I don't want to run tonight. I got to get to bed. But seeing you guys get your runs in, I'm like, man, I gotta push through and stay up late tonight. But that keeps me going. The goal that we've set, that motivates me, keeps me going. I like having a plan that helps me out. I like having it laid out. Sometimes it gets hard when I don't have a structured plan of sticking to stuff. Um, that kept me going. Kind of going back to the health thing. Another reason I started running was the same thing, like what Brett said. Health, like my dad, he had triple bypass at 43. I'm coming up on 40, and I'm going, man, if I keep doing what I'm doing and not exercising and eating like I eat, I'm gonna be lucky to be alive in 4 or 5 years. If I have a repeat of what my dad had. So it's like that was kind of the another motivation for me to stick with it, to start it to begin with, and to stick with it. But definitely running with you guys is, like I've told you guys numerous times, like I don't think I would have ran the half marathon already if it wasn't with you guys, because there were so many days that I would have told myself, oh, it's okay, don't run today, or
Oh,
pull
for
back,
sure.
or
If I would have kept with the running, I don't know if I would have got past 5K without you guys, because 5K is what
yeah.
I'd done before and it's what I'd been comfortable with. And kind of, we're all a little uncomfortable running a little further, but knowing you have other people doing it with you, it makes it a little easier because you got somebody you can complain about it with and they understand what you're complaining about.
Yeah,
100%.
it was nice too because when we transitioned to that 10K plan, it naturally aligned with a couple things during the summer for us, where it was kind of an excuse to get together on those long runs, a couple
Mhm.
times. And so, like having that stuff planned out a week or two in advance also gave us some accountability, or at least for me, it did. Where hey, these guys are out there working. I've got to make sure that I'm holding up my end of the bargain because that 8 mile run is coming, whether I'm ready or not. I want to make sure that I'm ready for it. And so that helped me for sure,
Well,
just the accountability piece.
let's not forget about your week of SEAL training and sticking with your running that whole week.
Oh, that was the pits. Yeah. So we went to Disney World, and my wife thought we would do, we've got three small children. So we did what she calls reasonable days. What we refer to as, Navy SEAL training, where I would get up and do my run in the morning before anybody got up. And then we would go rope drop Disney. And then she'd give us a couple-hour break in the afternoon to try to recover and change socks from all the sweat and awfulness. And then we would go back until fireworks every night. So that week was a challenge, but because I knew it was only a week, it was a fun challenge to do. And it was a different place to run, which also was helpful for me. I don't know about you guys, but I know we mentioned several times on some of our runs, we got to see some cool stuff that we probably wouldn't have noticed or paid attention to if we weren't doing this stuff.
Oh, 100%. That's what's been hard for me the last 2 weeks is not having like I said, going back to the structure, but I'm running at odd times a day and it's just running the same path in my subdivision. I mean, I've outlined every single street, every single sidewalk in my subdivision, and it's getting old. There's my subdivision's on a 2-lane road, so there's not much access to get to other subdivisions. I can cut through this school, but sometimes when I'm running, the school's going on. I'm not going to go running around the playground, when school's in session. But it's running that same pet. It just gets mind numbing sometimes, and it is good to switch it up. That's what I loved about the Florida run. You laughing at me?
No, I'm laughing that you're afraid of running by schools. You're concerned that all the adult teachers are going to stop what they're doing and pay attention to you because of your beauty.
No, not at all, man. But like school, I don't know what time the school gets out. At 4:00. I mean, I see parents going up there getting kids out. But like in the summertime, it was nice because I would just run around. It's like a quarter-mile loop around the whole school. But then there's also like a path access to the subdivision next to us. And so I would, like, when my first 10K, I would outline my neighborhood and then go over there, outline that neighborhood. And I was able to, kind of switch it up a little bit. But just running the same path over and over again does get kind of old.
Hey, Brett, you want to start us off with goals? What's your current short-term goal?
Right now, with us heading into winter, I'm just trying to really just log some miles and do it at a lower heart rate. So you kind of touched on it earlier, but for me, really the first 2 plans we did. So the 5K and 10K plan, which is about, I think it was about 16 weeks worth of running. I was doing every run as hard as I could, pretty much. And from day to day, it was a real mystery what that as hard as I could was going to be. So like some days I'd be out there running 10-minute pace. And then the next day on a very similar distance, I'd be running 12-minute pace. And it was a complete wild card what I was going to get each day, and kind of learning what we've learned and how important it is to actually recover on the recovery runs and keep your heart rate down. I'm just focusing on logging miles at a lower heart rate. So keeping in that zone 2 heart rate and just getting miles under that. And so it's low stress on my heart, but I'm also just building up my aerobic base with that. That's what I'm trying to get through for the winter. And that kind of is helping me build the base for my long-term goals. So I showed Dan the other day, but my goals for 2024 are to get sub 210 in a half marathon, sub 60 for a 10K, and then sub 29 for a 5K.
Oh, I love it.
So that'd be about a 25 minute improvement on the half marathon, which just having one, not a lot of data to go off of there, but it would be about a just under 4-minute improvement on the 10K and then a 2-minute improvement on the 5K, which I think they're very gettable, but they're not going to be easy. So that's kind of thought about lowering them more, but I do want it to be something that I can achieve. Bucket list, I'm not sure. There's part of me that maybe one day when I'm in better overall health and shape, that a marathon might be something I do, but not really sure on that yet. But it could be. It's sitting there. So last year I didn't think, or a year ago, I would have called you crazy for thinking I would run a half marathon. So the fact that it's even a thought makes me think could be reality.
Oh man, I'd say 6 months ago.
Let's not. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
let's not forget that the first week of the plan. How many weeks was the plan? 14. So 14 weeks. 14
So
weeks.
14
We're 2
weeks
weeks
ago.
away. So we're on our second week off since the half marathon. So 16 weeks ago, you didn't even start the plan with us because you were so turned off to the idea of a half marathon, and after 1 week of training, it was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do the training plan with you guys, but once I get to the 8-10 miles, then I'm done. To you finish the whole thing.
Yeah, it was definitely I definitely warmed up to it more and more. And I think by the time I started actually doing the plan, I was like, I'll see if I can make it through those other runs. If I can make it through those, I can what's 2 more miles? And which it was it's crazy saying now, knowing that the start of the plan, just running 1 mile without walking was an achievement.
All right,
Let's
Dan.
go.
So
what was the question
all right.
again? I got
All right,
sidetracked.
Dan. Walk us through your goals, buddy. Start with your short-term goals, and then
Short-term
hit
goal.
long-term and bucket list.
Same thing with like what Brett said. I'm really trying to work on my zone 2, building that aerobic base, getting more efficient, lower heart rate. But my goal is to get faster while keeping my heart rate down. Obviously, I mean, clearly that's what you guys are trying to do too. But I'd say half marathon. If we do another one before the marathon, I'd like to get sub 2 hours. I mean, we finished them in like 2 hours and 5 minutes. I'd like to get, down to 150, 155. That'd be nice, I think. Marathon, haven't really thought about my goals on the marathon. I just want to same thing like with the half marathon plan. I just want to complete one, hopefully with the decent timing. And definitely want to get better at my stretching, my recovery, and diet, which I think I've learned a lot with how much that affects and helps with your running, is what you're putting into your body, what you're consuming on a day, not just the day of, but like day to day, leading up to it.
Yeah, it's been a big transition for me too. All right, I'll go with mine. So short-term goals. I've got a self-diagnosed case of peroneal tendonitis, so I'm looking forward to getting back to where I can run for 60 minutes without wincing. I'm trying as hard as I can to be patient, it's funny that a year ago I had no interest in running at all, and now I cannot stand days that I can't run. It drives me crazy. So I'm just working on that for right now, trying to build back up so I can start another plan. I want to start marathon training. My long-term goals, I'm going to say finish a marathon, and then I would like to set a goal after I finish one to do one in under 4 hours. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Bucket list, we've talked about it. We haven't talked about it on here, but I would like to run the entire Katy Trail because of where we're located. We have great access to it, and I think that would be fun to do. Not in one sitting, but I would like to run each part of that. Maybe I could also add to that, do a run somewhere else in another country or something like that. That might be kind of fun too. Again, just an excuse to go do it.
I think that's a good one though, because I mean, one thing we've learned with vacation, like our recovery, it's not as bad. We're getting better at like how much it affects us throughout the day. If you think back to Florida to today.
Oh yeah, we're functional humans these days as opposed to being, dysfunctional.
Dead for the rest of the day.
All right, 30-second plugs. What's one thing that you would want to share if anybody ever picks up this podcast and hears it? What's one thing you would want them to share? Brett, you want to start with it?
Yeah, I know we all started with the Nike Run Club, and I think it's a great app to start out with. It starts you off with the 5K plan. It's a 5-minute run. It seems silly when you're starting it at that, but it's a good place to start because, as Coach Bennett said, you already did the hardest part. You got to the starting line and you crossed that. And definitely the guided runs on there are real nice. Coach Bennett and other coaches do give lots of wisdom and stuff and make the runs go by quicker and kind of gets you some enjoyment out of it. And that really helps.
All right, Dan, 30-second plug. If you could share something about running with somebody else, an app, a website, a person, a YouTuber, who is it? What is it?
Mine would be Nick Bear Fitness. I don't know how I came across his first video I ever saw, but you always think of runners as like this really skinny, small guy, and this dude is just like big and jacked, and he's running these crazy paces. And I started watching his videos, and the knowledge that the guy has is just insane. And I think it totally helped me in the preparation of my half marathon, watching some of the videos that he put together, mainly the how to properly fuel for endurance. Hearing his stories about what he went through doing it the wrong way kind of helped me prepare, and I think be ready for my half marathon.
The only thing that would add to Nick Bear's persona would be if he was as pretty as you are. That would make it all the more watchable.
You're such a dork.
Okay, I'll share mine. So I'm old, so I go old school. I picked up Hal Higdon's 4th edition of his marathon handbook. I read through it. He does a nice job of sharing some thoughts of other people from his website and from the forums and things like that. So if you care about what other people think, you may or may not, after listening to this podcast, if anybody finds it, they may care less about what we think. But he does a nice job of putting in anecdotes and stories that people have shared that are just average runners. Not everything that is shared in there is about elite running. A lot of it is, like us, just guys with jobs that run for fun and have a good time and have the goal of finishing a marathon. And so it was really good for that. It also has some pretty good advice. The last edition at this point was from 2011, so it is a few years old at this point, but doesn't mean everything in it is outdated for sure. So that's what I would recommend if anybody wants to go old school and pick up paper.
Love it.
What should we say? Oh, I got it. Okay. So I'll say, Dan, you say it's DB and J, and Brett say signing off.
It's DB and J.
Yeah, DB and J, like a sandwich. A sandwich full of average running.
How about JBD? JBD.
No, DB and J makes more sense. I'm not the head of anything.
We'll see you. So what? Coach Bennett always says, "We'll see you at the next starting line." Coach Bennett says, "See you at the next starting line." We'll say, "See you at the next finish line with a tub of ice cream."
Oh, I love it. All right, it's a work in progress. I'm going to snip that out because that's pretty fun. Thanks, guys, for doing this.
Thank you for putting it together, man.
It's kind of nice to have a little, recording diary, if nothing else, of our time together.
Yeah, I love it, man.
All right, it's about
one day when people are listening to this, because one day when people listen to this, just to see Dan.
Oh, for sure.
In the video form.
Oh, you guys never stop.
We'll just have his face show the whole time.
Oh, I love it.